And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining today. So today is April the 9th, Friday. So we have lots of things to cover. So to start off, uh, I'm sure for most of you who are familiar with surge of cryptocurrencies in the past few months or years, their value has been steadily increasing. Obviously, with the demand for cashless payment and several factors, Ethereum's value as well as Bitcoin's value has been steadily increasing. So if you're interested in investing in cryptocurrency, it's now the best time. So according to the article in Tech Times, as it's mentioned, Ethereum price in particular has massively gone up as of April the 2nd, while cryptocurrency has already seen incredible gains over the past 12 months or last year. So how big of an increase is it? Let's take a look here. Where was it? So as I mentioned, so in terms of pricing for Ethereum prices, it has already reached at its peak of $2,000, and compared to just $150 way back in April last year. So you can see how big of a jump it was able to reach, and the question is, will it continue to rise and surpass its current performance and even reach higher levels in terms of not just reaching in the thousands, tens of thousands, or even reach the levels of where Bitcoin is right now. And obviously, uh, gaining leaps and bounds due to market demand or frenzy is one of the things that increase the demand or price for Ethereum price. So let's take a look in their current pricing scheme right now. So you can clearly see right now it's hovering a little over $2,000, right? And that's for the 1 month. So if you were to take a look a year ago, so you can clearly see it's been on a trajectory upward trend. So from as low as I mentioned, less than $200, it's already peaking, going beyond $2,000. And if you were to look more than 5 years ago, you see here that there was a sudden spike before the pandemic, and then it went down again, and then it went up again to the point that they were reaching right now. Obviously, it's not just the demand for Ethereum prices skyrocketing for no particular reason. Obviously, with companies implementing or adopting payment or accepting accepting cashless payment, in this case cryptocurrency, has enabled cryptocurrency to be a common means of payment or cash in a sense. So here we have Greg Weisman, the known co-founder as well as CEO of Mercurio. Yeah. So Mercurio noted that Ethereum prices started to rally last July, I think. Yeah, it's July. Oh no, not July. Rally last year, as mentioned, when Visa started using its own network or in order to settle cryptocurrency. So obviously, if big multinational financial institutions like Visa, as mentioned, adopts this method of payment, obviously other prominent companies as well would soon follow. And it's not just that. You also have prominent investors such as Mark Cuban, who owns the Dallas Mavericks, who also owns a big chunk of Ethereum. So obviously, known personalities not just Mark Cuban. You also have Elon Musk investing in Bitcoin, obviously gaining some such prominence and popularity. So it makes sense for other people to follow suit. Now, whether the price would continue to rise or will it fall down eventually, only time can tell, or it depends on how the market performs here. So let's take a look at Bitcoin's performance here as well. So obviously here, Bitcoin has a significant value per Bitcoin. So it's almost in the 50, 60,000 range, which is pretty significant. So if you invested early on, it could stand to benefit several folds in terms of your investment. So this is just for 1 month. If we were to take a look a year back, so you can see it's the same as Ethereum. So it's been steadily growing in the past year or so. And if we were to compare that 5 years ago, it has been, consistently, below 10,000, 20,000 for the past few years. It's only, last year where, the Bitcoin frenzy has pushed up its price to a staggering amount of, reaching as high as mentioned as 58,000. So would it be able to reach the heights of, reaching as high as, what do you call this? As high as 100,000? It's possible, but one can only wonder as to the plausibility of that ever happening. But that's what the market can do for you. Anyway, so the question here is, will it sustain itself? Will it continue to grow? Will people still continue to invest more and more? And will this be the trend moving forward? Will other currencies or other cryptocurrencies pop up in terms of people looking for other alternatives to invest their money? And there was an estimation that Bitcoin by end of this month will be over 80,000. So we have to wait and see if that's going to happen anytime soon. And it was also mentioned that Funko Pop deciding to go to NFT. So that's another cryptocurrency. So using blockchain and obviously becoming more popular, and as more people understands how cryptocurrency works, whether it's safe to invest on it, can it be hacked, all of those things, and then this would encourage more people to invest on it rather than through the traditional means in the stock market or investing in your banks and so forth. Anyway, next we have sports. So speaking of sports, Nike is embroiled in some sort of controversy, not to their fault to begin with. I don't know if you've heard of the Satan shoes. This was made not from Nike, but a company. The name is Mischief. Yes, used an existing products line from Nike and created their own twist, which created controversy and hype, which you know generated thousands of dollars, which what could hope for in creating a marketing strategy like this. But let's take a closer look here. So Nike has filed a lawsuit against the said company for using the controversial Satan shoes as mentioned, because obviously when you see the big swoosh in the logo, and people would assume that the shoes is associated with the company that produced it, to which in fact Nike has got nothing to do with it in the first place. So they filed a lawsuit and they won actually regarding infringement of their copyright. So obviously you can create your own shoes, your own brand, but obviously Mischief for the company would not have the same success if they were to just create their own brand or use a different brand altogether. Now, what does this Satan shoes looks like? So let's see here. Where you go? There you go. So what does the Satan shoes looks like? So it uses an existing Nike shoes. What did they call it? Yeah, it's a Nike Air Max 97, which is nothing too spectacular about it. But here's the a twist here that they included. So they included a drop of blood inside the shoe. That's why they're calling it a Satan shoes to begin with. Actually, they already introduced an earlier version, which is they call it the Jesus shoes, which had less controversy. But obviously, when Nike found out about this, obviously filed copyright infringement here. So the company, as mentioned, Mischief, launched the sneakers, as mentioned, in collaboration with the known rapper Lil X or Lil Nas X to promote the product and sell sell hundreds of pairs, I think. Yeah, they were supposed to sell 666 pairs, and obviously jack up the price in terms of its, you know, unique composition, so to speak. And obviously featuring the trademark of the swoosh symbols led consumers to think that this was created by Nike, which I think Mischief knew and tried to capitalize on it. And obviously, whether Nike sued them or not, they've already done the damage in a sense, creating mass appeal, or creating such hype that obviously when Nike won, so obviously the company Mischief cannot sell it anymore, puts a premium on those limited shoes. And if you know anything about limited products, if people are fascinated on your product, they will pay an exorbitant price, whether it's shoes, trading cards, uh, gaming consoles, or any product that you see, even sports car, right? So as long as there's limited in quantities, people will always pay for a premium for that one. And that's what happened here. So once the lawsuit was won by Nike, the company had to halt fulfillment of future orders. Now they've already shipped 600 pairs, so meaning there's only 66 pairs that wasn't sold. So meaning those 600 pairs that was sold, could, how much are they selling right now? So could even, be sold even at a higher price, similar to how, with the shortage of the GPUs in the past, even the PlayStation console, limited supply could, drive up the prices for the limited product availability here. And obviously, the hype is the key here. And according to Davon Ford, a veteran sneaker collection reseller, obviously controversy surrounding any product, or in this case the sneakers, will help fuel the desirability and on the resale market, which is it's a win-win scenario for Mischief, regardless if Nike were to stop them or not. And the fact that they're taking advantage of the company's notoriety, not necessarily notoriety, but brand recognition, is I think the point that Mischief is trying to do here. And obviously, according to Dave One, as mentioned, every collector, reseller, sneakerhead's dream is to get a shoe, for the lack of a better term, that is banned. Actually, a good example is the Jordan limited edition, right? I won't say limited edition because they keep on releasing it year after year, but again, people still buy, even at a very expensive rate, making Michael Jordan a very rich person, right? And going back to the Satan shoes, so it's currently priced at a little over $1,000. So, it's pretty expensive to begin with. So with this hype, with all of this controversy, it has already had a listing price of almost $7,000. I don't know why would people pay for that, but if the market demands it, so be it. But would you buy this exorbitant price? And I'm assuming they're not going to wear it. They're going to store it. It's just like with any collection, because if you use it, it lessens the value in a sense. Anyway, uh, based on the design here, so you can, let's take a closer look here. Yes, there you go. So you can clearly see here the design and the subject matter made based on the sneakers controversy. The Nike company obviously had no recourse but to sue the company, because Nike has been very careful in terms of whom they associate, whether what type of political stance or personal preferences, because they need to cater to a wider market to sell a lot of sneaker shoes, right? And in this case, what do you call this, portraying that the shoes is somewhat on a religious concept, or any religious affiliation would undermine their objective here. So obviously this is difficult for Nike, but for Mischief, they've achieved their objective here, and uh, would be considered a success here. And as mentioned, according to Mischief, they sent a message and stating that they strongly believe in the freedom of expression, and nothing is more important than our ability and ability of other artists like us to continue our work over the coming years. Now, I think there's no problem with that, but as long as you don't drag other companies' brand into the fold, because if you create your own, which I doubt, likely doubt that they will be able to reach this success without the Nike brand here, which goes back to the point that Nike has the right to stop them. And what's interesting here that uh, controversy is part of Mischief's strategy. So obviously to be able to sell products, not just shoes or sneakers, you have t-shirts in other instances as well. And obviously pushback can only improve the stance of the Mischief brand in general here. And as mentioned here, the pushback from brands, as mentioned, just only creates more symbolism for the symbol that they're trying to create. And it's also stated that it adds another dimension of meaning behind it. Now, whether it's they're going to continue using the brand or use other brands, we'll wait and see. But it's interesting that a company's benefit is using another's detriment here. Anyway, going to technology here. So here we have Boston Dynamics. Now, for those who are familiar, Boston Dynamics is known for their robot dog Spot, who looks like a dog, acts like a dog, but can do so much more in terms of its application. You can use it to replace mundane stuff or dangerous stuff and be able to replicate it at a more efficient way. And it can climb up stairs, traverse difficult terrain, and obviously more dangerous in a environment. Now, it's not only that they're introducing or sharing to the market or selling to the market. They've now unveiled a new product. They're calling it Stretch, which is a new robot designed to move boxes in warehouses. So in particularly for warehouses or in logistics company, obviously with the pandemic, online deliveries has been an all-time high. So optimizing it for those companies like Amazon, Shopee, or even Lazada is important to maximize your productivity and profitability here. So let's see here. Yeah, so you can see here. So as mentioned, so the machine that you see in the screen here is Stretch, a logistics robot that focuses on moving boxes in warehouses. So question here is, when I read the article here, obviously with better technology, better AI, it improves certain processes, which in turn eliminates certain certain employees that would not be necessary anymore. Obviously, especially for Amazon, who employs several thousands or hundreds of thousands of employees in their warehouses to move boxes from one place to another. And with the controversy that Amazon has been dealing with all way back from years past all the way to the present, using machines, you don't have to worry about breaks or the person may get tired and so forth. Obviously, a machine will do its bidding depending on the requirement of the company here. Anyway, going into details about the robot Stretch. So it's not modeled in any type of humans or animals, so it just looks what it is. It's a small moving machine with an arm, with a box, and it moves the boxes as mentioned. So it's nothing too fancy in terms of the features, but it can do its job effectively or even more effective than humans do. And its aim, as mentioned here, is for practical purposes. So to move boxes left and right. And as you can see here, it's very boring. It's a square mobile base containing set of wheels, so you can move freely from one place to another. And there's a perception mast with cameras and other sensors, so you could locate and target, what boxes needs to be moved from what place to another here. And it has a huge robotic arm, and it has 7 degrees of freedom and a suction pad to be able to grab the boxes here. And as of right now, it has limitations, so it can only move boxes up to 23 kilograms or 50 pounds in weight. So the focus here is on mobility, not like with Stretch here. So considering that Stretch is more mobile, obviously it has different applications. For stretch here, it's more on moving boxes. Simple as that. And what's interesting here is compared to other robots that can move boxes, this is more mobile. Obviously, typically in warehouses, equipment has to install the entire system that is bolted down. Typically, like what you see in a manufacturing firm in car manufacturers. So you see arms moving around when they're assembling the machine. Obviously, you have to bolt it down so it cannot move around. But in case of this one, it has wheels, so it can move freely, or you can program it to where you want it to go from here to there. And as mentioned, it's designed to slide into any existing workplace where it could be useful for loading and unloading purposes here. So let's see. I think they have a video here at the bottom. Yeah, so it has a illustration here to so you can better imagine. So obviously they can scale it up, make it bigger, depending on the scale that the company needs it to carry more weight, bigger area, smaller area, and so forth. So looks interesting here. Now, according to the Boston Dynamics VP, Business Development Michael Perry, stating that that's the exciting about this system. It can provide automation to environments and you don't have to automate your infrastructure. So meaning minimal changes has to be incorporated, meaning the machine, once it's there, it can do its job without worrying. You have to put camera sensors all around the facility here and so forth. And what's interesting also, you can take this capability and you can move it into the back of a truck. So it is portable, well, to say the least, compared to others. And you can move it into any aisles. You can move it next to your conveyors. It all depends on your needs or problems on that particular day. And let's see here. Do they have another video here? There you go. So you can see here. There you go. So you can imagine here. Obviously, the target customers here would normally avoid this type of investment because it's too expensive and time consuming for integration. But with mobility here, the potential is tremendous here. And you can see here, as mentioned, around 80% of the world's warehouses don't have any automation equipment of any sort. So obviously this is a big opportunity for not just Boston Dynamics, for any company trying to capitalize in the boom in demand for warehouses here. Now it doesn't mention here what's the price tag here, but it makes a compelling case for what the future enthralls or installed for us. But one key question one would like to ask is, what will happen to people who's working in warehouses? Obviously, this would significantly affect their ability to be able to work in existing facilities. Obviously, not anytime soon, but eventually they will be phased out. And what would happen to those people who would be out of their jobs? And for all the advancement in technology, as you can see here, they could easily put in a conveyor belt, move the boxes from one side to another, and do it smoothly. And they could do it indefinitely, technically. And you won't have to take breaks, maybe for maintenance purposes, but minimal supervision is required, and they could do it much faster. Now, obviously, with the limitations of the weight, it has to be consistent. So obviously, the technology is still not there yet in terms of being able to handle any type of situation. But in terms of repetitive process, moving same boxes over and over, well, we have a technology now. Question is, would companies adopt it right away? We have to wait and see. And for me, I'm all for technology, but question is what will happen to those employees that will be out of the job in the next few years or in the next decade or so. And what's interesting, the company Boston Dynamics has mentioned they've been showing interest in the logistics space since 2019. So it's not anything new. And then they also purchased a company, Kinema Systems, which makes machines vision software for robots in warehouse. So they've been taking a look. So not just focusing on Spot the Dog, as mentioned. So they're looking at other applications for automation here. So you can see here we have automation for logistics. You have automation for transportation. You have vehicles, trucks, buses. It's coming to that point that sometime in the near future that you can see AI is a dominant force in our society or day-to-day living here. Getting to that point that what you see in films is going to be translated into actual reality here. Anyway, continuing with games. So if you're interested with, especially in retro games, now you'd be surprised to find out that one of the oldest games, okay, not just oldest games, but popular games of all time, Super Mario Brothers, was auctioned recently and it sold for almost $700,000. $700,000, or 660 to be exact. So it's worth millions of pesos here in our country if you're able to afford it. So it's a pristine condition, obviously, sealed, and it's an early copy of the Super Mario Brothers, which was sold online for $660,000 here. So never knew that a game could be this expensive. So meaning, just like what we discussed earlier about, creating hype, for, having a product that's limited in production and availability, people will always buy for, at exorbitant prices here. But anyway, let's take a closer look. There you go. So as mentioned, the game, the price tag here obliterates the previous record, which was around $156,000 for in an heritage auction, which they sold the Super Mario Brothers 3 last November. I didn't know that it was that expensive. You could play it using an emulator in your PC, but I didn't know buying an original one would be this expensive. So if you have an older game lying around, maybe you can hold on to it and maybe sell it later on at a very high price here. Anyway, so based on the history, how was this game, being able, was saved for all these years, decades? The game was purchased by that anonymous individual. Actually, they didn't tell us who the owner was, but it was mentioned he or she purchased it as a Christmas gift way back in the 1980s or 85, and it sat untouched at the bottom of a desk drawer for almost 35 years before being discovered, which is kind of ironic. And what's interesting here, it was in pristine condition. So obviously, you can have a very rare product, but if it's not in good condition, it will not fetch a high price. So in this case, the copy received an incredible 9.6 out of 10 rate in Wata Games quality scale, meaning obviously 10 being the highest, the pristine, the best quality. So it garnered an exceptional A plus seal, or near mint condition. So it's something desirable. That's why it fetched this high amount. And obviously, for the game Mario Brothers, a very popular game that's available worldwide at the time of release, but having that pristine quality makes it unique in a sense, or make it valuable. And it's not just that. According to the article, it mentions that it also has a sealed cardboard hang tab copies with the number in the digits. So meaning it's frozen in time in a sense. Let's see here. I think they have a photo here at the bottom. So you can see here. So it's categorized as pristine, and if you were to open the bag, you can see it front and back. So actually they put it in a glass case to keep it, keep it safe here. What's interesting here is actually I have a a basketball card of one of my favorite players, Hakeem Olajuwon. It's in a pristine case, his rookie card. So if it's worth anything, I don't know. Should I sell it? Maybe not. It's more for nostalgia more than anything else. And I think they have a photo here below. Let's see here. Yeah, you can see here they're checking it in terms of its quality here. So it's still sealed. It has a box. Let's see here. What else? So they're taking a closer. So you can see the hang type is still there. So it hasn't been pried open. So meaning, it's almost pristine, brand new. So let's see here. So they took a closer look. So it looks good. Looks very good. And you can see here the other tabs they have for the other products here. So, would you buy it for that amount of price if you could play it online for, for free, or for a low dollar amounts here? Anyway, Actually, another game, a rare Mega Man game, where it misidentified Dr. Wily as Dr. Wright, on a box has been sold for almost $150,000, $144,000 to be exact. And it's the first non-Mario game to uh, sell for six-figure sum, which is kind of expensive if you think about it. Now, would you buy it? Should one buy it? But if you have the money, the cash to buy it, why not? But for me, I'm always looking for value here. If I could play it anywhere else at a cheaper price, why not? The point is to be able to play and enjoy the game. That's key here. Anyway, on a related story on games. Now, if you notice, we've been talking about creating hype in terms of limited accessibility on any products. It tends to sell better, sell well, or pay a high premium at that. But what's interesting here, Nintendo, who produced Super Mario, actually last year launched the 35th anniversary by releasing the Super Mario 3D All Stars, the three games, and they only said that they're going to release it for a short period, which is has already ended early this month, end of March, and they're not going to showcase it anymore, which is I find it kind of ironic. If people are clamoring buying your games, retro games at that, why would you stop selling it? Now, there were speculations that they were trying to drive hype there so that people would be in a rush to buy it since it's only limited. But I think that's a wrong move for this for Nintendo if they're trying to generate more revenue. And as the data shows, people would still continue to buy their popular games, not just current ones, but even older ones. Actually, in their platform, I bought two retro games. I bought not necessarily retro, but an older game. What do you call this? The Final Fantasy VII, the original one, and I played it in the Switch. So, I'm not the only one here who would like to play not just new games, but older games. Played games I played years back when I was younger. And I also downloaded another Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy X, one of my favorites. So, it makes sense to keep on, making it available to your consumers so that for those who haven't played it before has a chance to play it. So you're missing a big opportunity if you just said, oh, it's only available for a limited time. And, they're making big mistakes, or they're going to reopen it or make it available sometime in the future. Who knows? Anyway, so let's see here. Or was it? Okay. There you go. As mentioned here, so the 3D All Stars, as mentioned, combines different games here, and if you haven't bought it, the Super Mario 64, the Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy, by end of March, then it will be gone forever. Which is, I hope it's a big they realize it's a big mistake that they would make it available again in the future. Now, obviously, there's still physical games available for purchase, but with the pandemic and all, with the limited copies, making it harder for people, why make it hard? I mean, people are willing to spend. Why not make it easier for them, right? But it is what it is. Good for those making those decisions in Nintendo. Anyway, so it was supposed to be a limited release based on the Super Mario Brothers 35th anniversary here. So they're making a pitch that you should buy it right now, and I tend not to be rushed. If I want the game, I'll buy it eventually. And what's funny is I have other games I haven't finished, so why would I buy something I'm not going to play right away unless I really like the game? Typically, that's more so on newer games rather than older games, right? And is it pro-consumer what they're doing here? And what's sad about it, it's not just Nintendo who's doing non-pro-consumer stuff that irritates many of the consumer, even I. Actually, it's not just Nintendo here. Who else? You also have PlayStation. Or was it? There you go. Yeah, PlayStation, closing their PlayStation Store for older games for PS3, PS Vita, and as well as PSP here. So you can just imagine here, if you know that games are selling well, people are still buy. Actually, there was an article mentioned that you know there are still developers making games for older consoles for PS Vita. I won't say PS3, but people are still buying the game. So there's no, I don't know if it's going to cost them a lot in terms of maintaining it in their databases, but you know they say that they're going to retain. If you bought it, you're able to re-download it. But for the new gamers, like let's say if I want to buy an old game, let's say I want to buy the Metal Gear Solid game, I won't be able to purchase it anymore, which is kind of stupid if you think about it. As I mentioned, why make it difficult for consumers to buy your product if it's readily available in your databases? And you don't have to manage it in a sense, and money will keep on coming in, printing money, so to speak, right? And what's interesting here, they didn't even announce it to their fellow developers in that platforms, and they were just left unaware, surprised to find out later on that, hello, it's not available anymore. Come, come this summer, right? So, as mentioned, players can no longer redeem gift cards through these devices. So, your money can still be used for the PSN wallets or PlayStation Network for PS4 and PS5, which got me thinking. They're going to, what do you call this? Phase out older generations. What would happen in the future? Let's say we move on to PS6 or PS7, whatever the newer generations come. What would happen to the PS4 titles or PS5 titles that I bought online? Would they do the same? Which is kind of surreal and unfair, right? And if you compare this to Microsoft's Xbox, and they've been doing tremendous, right? I mean, from day one, if you buy their Xbox Game Pass, you're able to play not just current games, but all of the games from the past, from Xbox One, Xbox Series, and all of those consoles as mentioned. And it makes a compelling case for consumers, even or for gamers, to patronize your product even if you have limited newer games, because you have tons and tons of older games that you could play off. You have Halo is another, and obviously with their acquisition of Bethesda, you can play what do you call this? Elder Scrolls. Then you have Doom and so forth. So makes it a more compelling case. I think it's a wrong strategy for both Nintendo and even for PlayStation here, neglecting what consumers want. And there was an article, it was mentioned that the Sony PlayStation head stated that older generation is not in high demand, which I beg to disagree. The fact that remake games sells a lot means people like to play the older games. Even it's just a rehash or an updated version, people would still play it. Obviously, they're trying to capitalize on it. That's why you see remakes of one from a previous console generation to another and another. Why not just be able to download it and be able to play in different consoles, right? Make it a better experience, and your gamers would be more loyal to your ecosystem rather than making a compelling case. Should I switch to Microsoft? Because Microsoft's making it easy for me to play games, right? Whether I play it in my console, PC, or even offline, or even in the cloud. Well, we'll only see unless consumers demand it. I guess things will always stay the same, but people would, pay for it gladly as long as they get to play those exclusive games, right? But up to a certain point, right? I think PlayStation or Sony here has been, becoming too complacent again, like what they did. How they, when they released the PS3 back then was terrible, but they were able to recover and make improvements, and they just have to continue, not always go one step forward, two steps backwards, so that you make you're trying to appease your shareholders, but at the end of the day, without your gamers, your consumer, you will not be where you are right now, right? Well, hopefully they will be able to introduce this sometime later, providing backwards compatibility for older games, right? Would be nice to play the original, like I mentioned, the Metal Gear Solid 1. You can also play, what was it? Gran Turismo. I played that, the first one, right? It looks pixelated, terrible, but hopefully they can make a rehashed version here in the future. Anyway, finally, for some interesting story here. So we've been talking about games in the last few articles here, and what's interesting here now, uh, I love playing games. If I have time, and I own one Nintendo Switch console here, obviously for its portability, especially when go traveling. I cannot bring my PlayStation or even a PC, or even if you have an Xbox here. What's interesting here, obviously, when you want portability, you still want to have a big screen. Now with the current Nintendo Switch, it's very small. Think about it, and especially the controller, gets tiring once you play it after a few hours and so. But you could buy additional accessories to make it more enjoyable. But anyway, going back. So in this one, a person in the name of a YouTuber, Michael Pick, who created the biggest Switch of all time, according to him. So, why did he create the biggest Switch ever? Where was it? There you go. So how big is it? Well, it's as big as your table. So as you can see here in the picture here, it's almost 6 feet wide. No, not 6 feet, 6 inches, but 6 feet wide, similar to your dining table. It has a 9.4-inch size, so that's diagonal. So what's interesting here, he says it's the world's largest Nintendo Switch. Now, how was he able to do it? He used a wooden frame to put the 4K TV inside, and with 3D printed buttons and an actual regular size switch handle inside the case. So to make it work, so you have smaller joy controller inside the device, in a sense, with several servo motors that translate the press into big buttons in the actual hardware here. So he used 3D printed joystick centered with rubber bands on top of smaller Joy-Con sticks. So you can see here. So you can see here the actual dimensions here. So it's pretty big. Obviously, it's not practical for playing it portably, but you could set it up as your TV in one of your rooms, especially for kids. They would enjoy it as much. Now, obviously, he made it to give it to what hospital was it? So it was going to give it to as a gift to a hospital here. What was it? Yeah, it was supposed to be a gift here. And what's interesting here is, people do always come up with, innovative ways on how to make things interesting here, whether make it larger or bigger, brighter, or even, just better, right? Question is, would you be interested to buy one of those if you were to sell it for retail here, for mass consumption here? But obviously, people can always come up with better ways on, how to improve products here. Anyway, that concludes our discussion for today. Thank you again for joining me again. If you have any questions regarding the article, you can check out in the link in the description below. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you again next week, same time, same channel. Take care. Bye-bye.